Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Talking Takeover review, this time for NXT Takeover WAR GAMES 2020, the last takeover of this godforsaken year, but thankfully the last takeover event gave us some incredible stuff to talk about here. Definitely an improvement, I would say. If you guys watched the last takeover review I did for Takeover 31, I was a little down on the show, but this one definitely amped me up a hell of a lot. It was an incredible show, had two awesome War Games matches, and really there was no bad match on the show. They were all really freaking awesome. So if you guys enjoyed the show, let me know in the comment section below, and if you guys enjoy these takeover review videos, let me know by leaving a thumbs up on the video. It definitely does help out, and if you aren't subscribed to the channel already, please do. That also helps out as well. And if you want to go the extra step further, check out the merchandise store. It is in the link in the description. Got a lot of awesome stuff up there right now, and we're always adding more designs as the years and the days and the months and the weeks go on. But with all that out of the way, let's just hop into the review here. So the show opened with the big video package, and then we have the first War Games matchup, the Women's War Games match, starting off the show. And my first note here is something very, very funny. So the show opens, they're putting down the cage, and the ring announcer is going through all the rules for the War Games matchup. The only problem is they're having the giant, like, war siren go off while she's yelling the rules for the match. So she's trying to, like, speak over the noise of the siren going off. It was very funny for me to listen to that. It kind of reminded me of whenever I was in school and, like, the teacher would be teaching, and around, like, noon the tornado alarm would go off on Wednesdays, and, like, they would still try to, like, talk over the freaking tornado alarm. It just was very funny to me. But the first matchup of the night was Team Candice LeRae versus Team Shotzi in the War Games matchup. Now, Team Candice picks Dakota Kai to go in first, which I thought was kind of a weird choice considering Shotzi's team had the advantage. You would think that if it's going to be a 2-on-1 situation for Team Candice, they would have someone like Raquel Gonzalez go in first, so that way, even if it is two people, Raquel Gonzalez has shown before that she can take on two people at once with Casey Catanzaro and, what is her name? Kaden Carter, I'm pretty sure it is. But yeah, it was just a really weird choice to have Dakota Kai in there, but, you know, I wasn't really going to think too much of it. And then Shotzi comes out with this awesome new tank. It's super huge. All the superstars on Team Shotzi get a cool pose on it. That's why I'm using it for the thumbnail. It looks awesome. And then it shoots a freaking, like, toy missile at the cage. I thought that was really cool. You can definitely suspect that Mattel, the toy line company, is definitely going to have their eyes on that as a future toy to possibly come out. Too bad it's going to be too late for Christmas, but hey, you never know. Christmas next year, possibly. Shotzi goes in, or Shotzi actually picks Ember to go into the cage first. So we start out with Ember and Dakota Kai. Early on, Shotzi brings in a toolbox with some hammers and a crowbar, and then Toni Storm later on brings in some kendo sticks. Io Shirai brings in some ladders, some kendo sticks, and chairs. But Raquel Gonzalez takes out Io Shirai momentarily and, like, holds the cage door shut, and Toni Storm even uses her belt to hold the door shut. I thought that was pretty cool. And then Raquel Gonzalez picks up Shotzi Blackheart into a powerbomb, and Io Shirai's climbing the cage on the outside. She's trying to get inside the cage, so Raquel powerbombs Shotzi into Io, knocks Io off the cage, and then Candice LeRae comes out, and she's face-to-face with Io on the outside of the cage, and then Indy Hartwell jumps over the barricade, takes out Io Shirai, and helps Candice LeRae bring in a lot of weapons. Indy Hartwell locks the door shut and takes the key. I think she, like, throws it into the crowd or something like that. And then at one point, Shotzi is getting hit with, like, 3 kendo sticks from, like, 3 different girls at this point. And then it's a big moment where all the women are standing together, and then all of a sudden, Io Shirai appears on the top of the cage holding a trash can, and she has, like, this huge grin on her face. She puts the trash can over her head and then does, like, a blind dive off the cage onto everybody inside the ring with the trash can on her head. It was very funny. It got a big laugh out of me. It was one of those WTF moments. I'm sure it's going to be memed for a long, long time, but I thought it was really awesome. Later on in the matchup, we have Candice LeRae applying the Gargano escape and using the wrench wrench from the toolbox as a weapon. I thought that was pretty cool. And then Dakota Kai has Io Shirai locked inside another trash can lid, and she comes off the top rope with a double foot stomp. I thought that looked brutal. Even more brutal was Ember Moon hitting an eclipse on, I believe, Dakota Kai, and Dakota Kai's like throat or chest or something came down on like the edge of a steel chair. It was beautifully like set up. Like the timing for it was amazing, but as soon as I saw it, I was just like, this looks so freaking brutal. Like, it was insane. And it got even more brutal. Toni Storm hit a Storm Zero through a trash can, and then even more brutal, Shotzi Blackheart hits a senton off the top of a ladder onto Candice LeRae, who was sandwiched in between two steel chairs, which apparently from this, I'm just learning about this before I started filming, apparently Candice LeRae went to the hospital for possibly a broken arm, so we'll see how that comes out, but hopefully she's okay. But that was just a very brutal bump to make. And the ending to the matchup was Io Shirai is climbing up the top rope towards like the center of the two rings, and Raquel Gonzalez stops her, like picks her up into a powerbomb, and powerbombs her through like a ladder bridge that's been set up in between the two rings. Io Shirai down for the count. Raquel Gonzalez makes the pin. Raquel Gonzalez pins the NXT Women's Champion. The winners of the match are Team Candice LeRae. This has some very interesting implications for the women's division, especially between Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai, because Raquel's usually been like the heavy, the muscle for Dakota Kai, and now it's kind of in the reverse where Dakota Kai is going to be in the corner of Raquel Gonzalez. I'm sure that'll be like a TV feud. Who knows? Maybe they'll spin it off and have Raquel go her own way and have Dakota Kai go her own way. We know, I know there have been some talks like Raquel Gonzalez is supposed to be a big deal heading forward, which she definitely is, and getting a victory over the women's champion here tonight in War Games definitely solidifies that. After the matchup, we had a promo from Finn Balor saying that he was going to be on NXT this coming week, so that's pretty exciting. I have a feeling of who might also show up on that NXT this week, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Next up, we had Tommaso Ciampa versus Timothy Thatcher. This feud's kind of been like a battle of like Ciampa trying to see who the toughest guys in NXT are, and he sees Timothy Thatcher as one of those tough guys. Kind of been a little bit wonky. I mean, ever since Tommaso Ciampa came back after his loss to Karrion Kross, he's been kind of acting weird on NXT. Like, one week he's like a total bad guy, the next week he's like a tweener or something like that. I don't know. It's been very weird. I still don't know where to see him here in either face or heel, but I definitely saw him come out for his entrance here tonight looking like some sort of like scary samurai. He looked like Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think Jason Solomonster on Twitter said that he kind of looked like Uber Jason from Jason X, which was very funny. This was a great match, a great technical match, a lot of bitter strikes and stuff like that. It took a little bit to get exciting following that big War Games matchup, but eventually it got very, very good. Early on, Timothy Thatcher gets the advantage and destroys Tommaso Ciampa for a very long while. And while this matchup was going on, the thought came into my head of, I want a matchup between Timothy Thatcher versus Oney Lorcan or Timothy Thatcher versus Danny Burch. I don't know if we've had that, but if we haven't, we definitely need to see that at some point, because I feel like that would be an awesome matchup to see. I might have to look it up after I'm done recording this to see if that matchup has actually happened. But later on in the matchup, there's a spot where both guys like collide heads. They like headbutt each other like they're both going for spears. And after this, Tommaso Ciampa somehow is able to get up and he hits a big comeback. He's like hitting multiple clotheslines over and over and over and over again off the ropes. Although Timothy Thatcher comes back, he locks in the front face lock, which previously knocked out Tommaso Ciampa on NXT TV. But Tommaso Ciampa is able to like drive him back, and like both guys fall out of the ring. Tommaso Ciampa hits a double throat chop, hits a couple knee strikes, hits a bulldog, or gets him in the bulldog choke, I should say. I just have here in my notes bulldog, so I assumed he hit a bulldog. But yeah, Timothy Thatcher gets put in the bulldog choke, but he's able to power out of it. And after this, they do a camera shot where it shows Timothy Thatcher's ear, his like left ear, and it is just crimson red with blood. and there's like tons of cuts all over it, and he's like smiling at the camera. It was a really cool shot. I don't know exactly where this would have happened. I don't know if maybe it was when they like fell out of the ring or like after a knee strike, because I think the knee that Ciampa used might have been the one. Was he wearing a knee brace? I can't remember. I think he might have been wearing a knee brace. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, the ending of the match came when Ciampa got Timothy Thatcher in the ropes. He's like tied him up kind of with his arms underneath, and he's hitting like all these brutal strikes, like chops, punches, knee strikes, and then finally he hits him with the Willow's Bell DDT, covers him for the win. Your winner, Tommaso Ciampa. And then after the matchup, both guys are kind of like sitting on the apron, like staring down each other, kind of like a silent show of respect. I don't know if this feud will continue. If something comes out of this, I would like to see maybe Timothy Thatcher team with Tommaso Ciampa. That could be a pretty cool tag team. NXT definitely needs a lot of strong tag teams, especially if they're planning on doing another Dusty Classic anytime soon. I don't know. I know last year, or maybe the year before that, they did the Dusty Classic around the time of WrestleMania. So if they're going to be doing something like that this year, then they definitely need to start putting some teams together. But yeah, this was an awesome match. These guys did great stuff. Like I said, still not really sure where Tommaso Ciampa falls in this whole face or heel dynamic. But if he is trying to find the toughest men in NXT, I think it's about time that we get Tommaso Ciampa versus Finn Balor for the NXT Championship as Finn Balor's next feud, which could also play into what happens later on in the night. I'll get to that here in a moment. So following that matchup, we had Cameron Grimes versus Dexter Loomis in a strap match. Now the matchup opens with Cameron Grimes saying that he won't put on the strap that the referee has provided. He's wearing his own strap, which gives Grimes the early advantage because he tries to attack Loomis and get the fight started pretty early, though Loomis pretty quickly gets the advantage back and actually straps himself to Grimes, and then Loomis uses the strap as a slingshot to slingshot Grimes into the plexiglass, which was pretty brutal. And then at one point, Cameron Grimes suplexes Dexter Loomis over the barricade, kind of like where the hard cam is, and probably onto a crash mat that was like right out of sight. And then he like slingshots Loomis back over the barricade and like makes him hit his back on the floor, which was pretty cool. A little contrived, but in a strap match, a lot of the spots are going to be pretty contrived. We have another kind of contrived spot coming up. Cameron Grimes takes the advantage after this for a little while, and then Cameron Grimes keeps putting the strap. He takes the strap and he keeps putting it over Dexter Loomis's eyes, which I really liked because kind of the whole story going on is like Cameron Grimes is kind of just afraid of Dexter Loomis's eyes, which I think they told really, really well in the story, especially because Grimes takes the bag that the other strap was in that the referee had, and he puts the bag over Dexter Loomis's head, which was pretty cool, and he like beats him up for a little while until Dexter Loomis fires back with a spine buster in the ring. Later on, Cameron Grimes grabs a steel chair and he uses it on Dexter Loomis, and then he kind of sets it up in the middle of the ring. Loomis tries to go up top in one point in the match, but Cameron Grimes quickly yanks him off and hits like a Spanish fly for 2. And then Grimes sits Loomis in the chair and tries to deliver the moon stomp. I think it's what he calls it, the jumping double foot stomp. He tries to hit him with the double foot stomp while Loomis is sitting in the chair, but Loomis moves. And there's like this weird spot where like Loomis is like running around Grimes and like the strap is slowly getting tied around Grimes's feet. And then finally Grimes looks down, Loomis yanks the strap, and Grimes trips himself and falls down headfirst onto the chair. Loomis then ties up Cameron Grimes with the strap even more so he can't move, puts him in that like side choke, and makes him tap out. So Dexter Loomis wins the match. I thought it was a very creative finish with the chair trip. A little contrived yet again, but still very, very funny. I mean, this is coming from a feud that had a haunted House of Horrors match. I mean, it doesn't really get any more contrived than that. But following the victory for Dexter Loomis, we cut to the announce table, and they're kind of talking about, what was it, the War Games playset or something like that, and the lights start to flicker on and off. And then it cuts to a video package, and a clip of like a vulture or a buzzard or something like that sitting on a perch, signifying that Karrion Kross is coming back from his injury. He's been out for a little while, and in that time, Finn Balor has become the NXT champion. With Finn Balor coming back to NXT TV this coming week, and with Tommaso Ciampa's victory over Timothy Thatcher here, what I would like to see is a feud between Finn Balor and Tommaso Ciampa over the NXT Championship. Then when the eventual match comes up, despite whoever wins, whether it be Ciampa, whether it be Balor, I would rather it be Balor just so the feud can continue. Plus, I'm a big fan of Finn Balor, so I would like to see him hold the championship longer. But you could even have it happen like during the matchup, have it go to a no contest. But during that matchup, Karrion Kross returns, destroys both men, sets his sights back on the NXT Championship. History with Ciampa, obviously, with Kross's big takeover debut match against Ciampa. Then Finn Balor, who holds the NXT Championship. I mean, Karrion Kross said, like, whoever's NXT champion, your time is numbered or something like that. That could be an awesome 3-person feud for the NXT Championship, because then you have the aspect of Finn Balor and Tommaso Ciampa having to work together to go after Karrion Kross. I feel like that could be pretty awesome. I don't know exactly when Kross is going to be returning. I don't know if it would be this week on NXT TV, but when he does, Doomsday is going to come with him, just to put it lightly. Next up, we had the North American Championship triple threat match. It was Damian Priest versus Johnny Gargano versus the champion Leon Ruff. Damian Priest kind of got a bit of a jobber entrance here. He kind of already started off doing his like in-ring bits. I mean, it wasn't really that bad of a thing. It was just kind of something that I noticed. The title introductions, they added a little bit to the title introductions here for the what do they call it? The CWC. I'm trying to Capital Wrestling Center. So the lights go down like they usually do in NXT, though the ring announcer gets in the ring and a microphone like comes down from the ceiling. I thought that looked really, really cool. So they do the introductions like that. Early on in the matchup, Johnny Gargano super kicks Damian Priest out of the ring, and he focuses in on Leon Ruff for the majority of that until Priest gets back in. And then Damian Priest and Leon Ruff have a little bit of a face-off, and Gargano and Ruff try to take out Damian Priest on the outside. Doesn't really work. Damian Priest razors edges Ruff through this plexiglass wall on the outside. It looked really good. It looked like on the replays he was trying to throw him into Gargano. Gargano got out of the way. And after this, Priest kind of feels bad. He's like saying, I'm sorry. He's kind of checking on him. And then it comes down to just Priest and Gargano for a little while. So Leon Ruff is taken off by the officials. Johnny Gargano hits a tornado DDT on the outside. Priest and Gargano go back and forth in the ring for a while until Leon Ruff comes back down the rampway. Priest is on the outside of the ring on like his hands and knees. It's like a raised platform. And then Ruff runs and jumps off of Damian Priest's back over the top rope into the ring and splashes onto Johnny Gargano. It was really cool. And then Ruff hit a really big like springboard move to the outside and lands onto Priest and Gargano. And then Priest hits this awesome like double lifting flatliner on both guys and then delivers splashes to both of them in the corner. Hits the Falcon's arrow on Ruff into Johnny Gargano. And then at one point, Johnny Gargano takes Damian Priest and like ties him up in the ropes. Like his arms are tied up in the ropes. And Leon Ruff ends up missing a dive. Gargano puts in the Gargano escape in front of Damian Priest. And then Damian Priest finally breaks out and saves the matchup. Doesn't allow Leon Ruff to tap out. Leon Ruff gets super kicked by Johnny Gargano during a rope catch. When he tries to like spring off the ropes. I thought that was really cool. Damian Priest hit a chokeslam on Johnny Gargano for a near fall, and then the weirdest part of this matchup happened. 6 people wearing the Scream Ghostface masks show up. I thought it was weird that there were 3. But now there are 6. Thankfully, Damian Priest took them out pretty easily with a bunch of dives. Damian Priest then chokeslammed Johnny Gargano on the apron and kind of rolled him back inside. And as Priest is trying to collect himself, Leon Ruff hits a splash, nearly gets the win, but thankfully Damian Priest broke it up for 2. And then Damian Priest gets hit by a lead pipe from one of the Ghostfaces. Gargano then super kicks Leon Ruff, hits the slingshot DDT, for the win. Johnny Gargano is the first ever North American champion, two-time North American champion. And then following the matchup, we get the reveal of the I guess, main ghost face person on the rampway, takes off the mask. It's Austin Theory. And while he does this, he is redoing the whole iconic higher power speech that Vince McMahon did, where he says, "It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin." But instead of saying it like, "It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin." Instead of saying it like that, he's saying it like, "It's me, Austin. It's been me all along, Austin." Like, I thought that was a really cool, like, switch of it. But, so Austin Theory is this first one. Who were the others? Like, is Gargano just going to say he, like, paid those people off? I don't know, but it's cool to see Austin Theory back. I kind of suspected that it was going to be him after the whole exchange that they had following a matchup on NXT TV where Gargano kind of was proud of Austin Theory, I guess, and then Austin Theory, quote-unquote, quit NXT. I kind of assumed that he was going to be one ghost face, but I didn't realize there were going to be more. But yeah, this was a pretty cool storyline to be going on for the past couple of weeks, and I'm interested to see where they go now with the North American Championship. You still got Damian Priest. I would like to see Leon Ruff stay in the North American title picture. I mean, other than that, the only outcome I could see them going for is having them face Legado del Fantasma for the Cruiserweight Championship, which a lot of people would definitely see as a demotion. 205 Live isn't really seen by a lot of people, but if you have someone who now has a higher raised star power like Leon Ruff, who just held the North American Championship, and you have Legado del Fantasma trying to make fun of him like, haha, you lost your championship super quickly, then you can kind of have that on-TV feud of Leon Ruff versus Fantasma for the Cruiserweight Championship. It could be really good. Leon Ruff has done really good. Kind of sucks that his title reign was pretty quickly, but if a better story comes out of it featuring Johnny Gargano, I would definitely be up for it. And now it is time for your main event of the evening, the Men's War Games match. This was excellent. So once again, the ring announcer is going through the rules of War Games while the siren goes off. That was pretty great. Kyle O'Reilly starts things off for the Undisputed Era. Pete Dunne starts things off for Team Pat McAfee. Pete Dunne and Kyle O'Reilly go back and forth with some brutal manipulation, some strikes, and then Oney Lorcan gets in. Kyle O'Reilly tries to fight off both men at the same time, but it gets way too much. At one point, Pete Dunne puts Kyle O'Reilly in like a surfboard stretch, and then Oney Lorcan like chops him. It was pretty brutal. And then once the Undisputed Era's next guy goes in, Bobby Fish goes in, and he evens the odds for Undisputed Era. And they start hitting their usual tag team stuff, and it just reminds me of how great Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly have been. It's been kind of a long time since I've seen them do tag team stuff, so it was really great to see them back doing this. Then Danny Burch goes in for Team Pat. Burch goes under the ring and grabs a bag, gets inside the ring. Inside the bag are cricket bats, which I thought was a pretty interesting weapon to choose. My next note here is later on in the matchup when Danny Burch has only been in the matchup for maybe like 5 minutes. At one point, Danny Burch proves that he is the weakest member of Team Pat McAfee because Kyle O'Reilly gets Danny Burch in like this leg lock, and Danny Burch very quickly taps out, but not all the members from all the teams are in the cage yet, so the match hasn't technically begun. But once Adam Cole got into the matchup later on, if Kyle O'Reilly just put Danny Burch back inside that hold, they probably would have won right there. That just looked very stupid for Danny Burch. I don't mean it. I don't mean to be mean. It was just a very stupid, very weird thing to see happen so quickly. Roderick Strong then runs in for the Undisputed Era and goes after Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. He's amazing. Pat McAfee goes in, and before he does, he goes under the ring and takes a bunch of tables all of them spray painted with the Undisputed Era members' names. I kind of wonder how this stuff goes down. Like, you think about it behind the scenes, like Pat McAfee sitting there with Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch for arts and crafts, painting these tables. Like, I want to do Kyle. I want to paint Adam Cole's. Please let me do that one. I don't know. It just seemed very funny to watch and kind of think about. And Pat McAfee, for the longest time, is just in the ring watching his guys beat up the Undisputed Era because they have the team man advantage. So he's just sitting on the top rope watching them. Roderick Strong gets put on his table, and Pat McAfee does a moonsault off the top rope through Roderick Strong through the table. That's his first move of the matchup, and it was a pretty cool move. Adam Cole then comes in for his team. He's the final man. Goes under the ring and grabs a fire extinguisher and uses it on Team Pat McAfee, who are like blocking the door, which is pretty cool. At one point, Pat McAfee and Adam Cole are in opposite rings. They're like staring at each other. Adam Cole tries to go over to Pete Dunne, or over to Pat McAfee, and Pete Dunne is standing in his way, blocking him from getting to Pat McAfee, which is pretty great. And then later on, there's this awesome stare down between Kyle O'Reilly and Pat McAfee. And Kyle O'Reilly like throws the chair down that he had in his hand. And he's like, "I'll fight you without the chair. Come on, bring it on." And as Pat gets closer, Adam Cole picks up the chair and he whacks Pat McAfee in the back with it. So Adam Cole gets to beat up Pat McAfee for a little while. Then later on, Team Pat gets the advantage. Pat McAfee uses the figure four on Adam Cole for a little bit. And then later on, Fish, O'Reilly, Burch, Oney, they all take each other out. Pete Dunne and Adam Cole go back and forth. Pete Dunne gets powerbombed off the top rope onto Burch. He was supposed to go through the table, but it didn't break, so Roderick Strong has to dive off and splash onto all of them. And Adam Cole Adam Cole shoves Pat McAfee off the top rope through the table that's labeled Kyle O'Reilly. And then Undisputed Era pin all the members of Team Pat, Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch. They pin them in between the cage and the ropes, and one by one they do all these like running strikes to them to like take them out for a long, long time. And then the Undisputed Era all together go after Pat McAfee. Adam Cole tries to hit the punt kick, but then Team Pat comes back. Pat McAfee then, through all of this, hits probably the craziest move of the night, on top of Io Shirai. Maybe Io Shirai did it better with the trash can, I don't know. I'm still undecided on that. But all the team members are fighting each other inside the ring. Pat McAfee is standing on top of the cage and does a giant swanton dive onto everybody down into the ring. It was very brutal. And then later on, Bobby Fish spears Danny Burch through the table that's been set up inside, like no man's land, I like to call it, in the middle of the two rings. I thought that was pretty cool. And then Pat McAfee got super kicked by Adam Cole, gets hit with the Panama Sunrise, and then Pat McAfee kicks out at 2 from a Panama Sunrise. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think he kicked out of one at the first takeover where him and Adam Cole had a match. I probably would have had a little bit of a better feeling about it if someone had broken up the pin, but having him kick out of the Panama Sunrise just didn't really sit well with me for some reason. Later on, this was as brutal as the Eclipse onto the steel chairs. Pete Dunne hits a bitter end onto a set-up steel chair to Adam Cole, so Adam Cole's ribs like fall down onto the top edge of the chair. It looked so freaking brutal and really awesome. And the matchup ends with, like, Oney Lorcan is laying down on the ground. He's got like a steel chair over his face. Kyle O'Reilly comes off the top rope and hits a knee drop onto the chair, which crushes Oney Lorcan's face. And then Kyle O'Reilly pins Oney Lorcan for the win. So, technically, if I'm looking at this, Kyle O'Reilly won the match twice because he made Danny Burch tap out like a little punk super early on. Then he pins Oney Lorcan. So, if I'm thinking about this, if Raquel Gonzalez gets a title match from pinning Io Shirai, Kyle O'Reilly and the Undisputed Era should get a tag team title match for pinning Oney Lorcan here. I don't care if it was off of a steel chair knee drop. They still deserve a title match. So the Undisputed Era win. They get the big win. So now I think they are tied 2 wins, 2 losses in War Games. I think it's been 4 years of War Games, and I'm pretty sure the Undisputed Era have been in every one. So, yeah, this was an incredible matchup. Awesome main event. both War Games matches did really, really well. Nothing felt like it was redone in either of the War Games matches. Everyone seemed to have, or both ones seemed to have their own, like, different quirks to it, I would say. Undisputed Era winning is really awesome. I don't know where they go from here. A lot of people thought that they would lose tonight and then go down to either Raw or SmackDown. If you wonder why I say go down, is because I see Raw and SmackDown as a demotion instead of a promotion for people that go from NXT, because I feel like NXT is WWE's absolute best brand, followed by 205 Live. Even though people don't really watch it, it is still really great wrestling compared to Raw and SmackDown. So, yeah. That is NXT Takeover War Games 2020. Overall, probably my favorite takeover of the entire year, followed by NXT Takeover In Your House. The pandemic has done a lot of crazy things. It's messed up a lot of things in pro wrestling, but NXT still continues to be a constant great thing, as does AEW. I know a lot of people that are probably listening to this don't really like AEW. I watch both. I don't really have a favorite. I just love good wrestling, so I watch both of them. But to each is their own, I would say. If you're going to argue about it in the comment section below, if you like what you like, then good for you. But yeah, now the case is, where do we go from here? Like I said, I would definitely like to see Karrion Kross get involved in the title scene, as I would Tommaso Ciampa. Raquel Gonzalez is probably going to get that matchup with Io Shirai. Undisputed Era probably going to get those tag team titles back. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll get Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch versus the returning Killian Dane and Drake Maverick. That would be cool to see. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to have to come up with my top 10 list for top 10 takeover matches of the year. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What was your favorite match of the night? And what has been some of your favorite takeover matches of the entire year? Let me know in the comment section below. And I will see you guys next time for the next Talking Takeover review. Thanks for listening.